My name's Caitlin, and today we're going to try and make something really cool out of this old door. I wasn't working off plans for this one, but I had the basic gist of what I wanted the design to look like before I started working, and I have quite a few doors in my stockpile of stuff. This one was a little bit wider than a normal door, also shorter, but I picked it because the 4 panels on it could be equally cut up into parts that were symmetrical in order to get my 4 sides. So to start, I just ripped it down the middle, then I cut off 2 of the edges, which will be used later in the project, and then from there I could go about slicing the 2 pieces I had left in half and removing part of the bottom. Since this is an older door, obviously the sides and the bottoms are going to be fairly roughed up, and I wanted to start with fresh pieces. So because of the layout of this door, sometimes doors, the top panels and the bottom panels aren't the same size, but I got lucky with this one, they were, and like I said, it was basically just going around and cutting out those 4 sections and making sure that the side stiles and the top rails were all going to be the same dimension, so when you looked at it from the front, it all matched. Now because I'm chopping this up into different pieces, obviously all of the joinery on the door is going to be in odd spots. As you can see, there's molding on this, and a lot of doors, the moldings will be cut into the stiles, so you have to cut them to remove them. I've done that process on doors like this. This one was unique in the fact that the trim was added afterwards on top of the raised panel. So in order to start taking this apart, because I needed the raised panel out of the middle in order to cut it, it was pretty simple. I could just go through and remove all of the molding on the front side and the back. I'm pulling the nails through the back side of the piece so it doesn't blow out the front. The front, even if they're finishing nails, they're usually filled with years and years worth of putty and paint. If you hammer them through the front, they usually tear out a bunch of the wood. And then that is what that panel looks like. Like I said, this is a double-sided door that looks identical. They're not always like that, but I just went through and removed all the molding. Now some of these panels, the ends, the mortise and tenons were doweled in place. I didn't worry about messing with those, and I just knocked off the sides where I could slide the panel out. On these older doors, you usually get lucky in the fact that if the certain glue that is used is usually older to glue that's broken down over time, and the parts are easy to kind of break apart. On modern doors, you might have problems with the glue will hold and you won't be able to pull these doors apart like I am doing in the video. Once again, I have had that issues. There's workarounds for it. You can cut through the rails and stiles and remake tenons and mortises, but if you don't have to do that, it just makes life easier. In order to get the years of paint off of this, because most of my surfaces are now flat because I broke the door apart, the easiest way in my opinion to do this is to use some rough sandpaper and a belt sander and tackle most of the work like that. It makes a quick task of removing layers and layers of paint. You'll see later on the detail trim I do use a stripper because the sander will take forever, and I try and use a more eco-friendly stripper. I found this one on Amazon. All these chemicals are not great for the environment, but this one's a little bit better for the environment. And then I just wrap these up. Now originally I just had a bag laying around. I wrapped them so the coating can kind of set overnight. I ended up doing this 3 times, which is why I only use stripper if I have to. The chemicals are not great, and it is a long process when there's multiple layers of paint on there, especially varnish. Varnish is notoriously difficult to get off these doors, and it's just a longer process. You can see the sanding was much faster. Like I said, it took 3 rounds of stripper to get all this off, and I started storing it overnight in a plastic bag, and that really helped the stripper set in and remove all that paint. Some sawdust and a wire brush will help get off that excess stripper and also remove some of the paint. This is a softwood, so it will rough up the surface a little bit, but the look I'm going for is rustic, and it wasn't that big of a deal. To cut out the intricate pattern on the inside, I cheated and I'm using a laser engraver to do that. Now, I have cut out intricate patterns with a scroll saw before. It is doable. This pattern, admittedly, I would not have cut out with the scroll saw, but if I didn't have the laser, I just would have designed something that didn't have as much detail but was still interesting and engaging to look at. The one problem with the laser engraver is I actually planed off the back side of this panel because it was almost an inch thick and it would have taken forever to do that with the laser engraver. So I planed down the back side and got it to about 5/8 of an inch, but it still took over an hour to cut each panel. And you can see the laser will not go all the way through in all of the spots because the thickness on this panel is not identical. So you do sometimes have to kind of punch everything out, sand a little bit on the back in order to get all of the pieces out. That's just going to be something difficult to do on these thicker panels. And then I could just glue these back together because it's going to be a box. I'm not as concerned about gluing the older joints because the whole box will be glued together, all four sides, making it pretty strong once all that's done. And I labeled all the molding before I took it apart, so all I had to do was pop the moldings back into place. In order to start actually building the box, now that I have my panels remade and stripped, I actually want a very slight taper on this. I don't want it perfectly square, and also the sides now are a little bit wider than I wanted. So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone and put a taper as well as a long 45 bevel on the sides. So when I join all these together, I don't have a butt joint. I just have nice continuous grain. In order to do that, I already have a tapering jig in the shop, but it wasn't wide enough, so I added an extension to it, and then I just adjusted the tapering jig because I'm only shifting it about 2 degrees. I could shift the tapering jig fence on the bottom 2 degrees and then put a fence on the side, everything attached with brad so I can move it, and then I could go through and cut these side panels. Using the tapering jig like this made very quick work of this. A couple weeks ago I uploaded another video where this jig wouldn't work for this, and this was a much faster process. The problem with doing the taper as well as the angle is it's really hard to tell where the angle is going to hit the wood because you're cantilevering where your fence is. And then I could just take all of the panels off. You could see it's held in place with that clamp as well as my other fences, so it's a pretty safe cut. And I could just clamp all of those panels in and do the exact same process. The other bonus to this is it cleans up all the edges with any kind of glue or joint muck I have on the sides from when I glued everything back together. Now the problem with this is because you cut a taper on one side, you can't just flip it and cut the exact same taper on the other. I'm actually cut the top side first, and then I have to cut from the bottom side because the bevel or the angle of my table saw only tilts one way. So this was pretty simple. All I did was tilt it 2 degrees and the other way, rebuilt the jig. I could line up my marks on the front and the back side, so that's how I know it's accurate. You could see going through the front it's lined up with my mark, going to the back it's lined up for my mark. I could put brads back in the jig and then send it through on the last 4 sides, and that was how I went about making those angles. Unfortunately, with stuff like this, you can't really tell if you're cutting it perfectly till you have a couple done, but once I had 2 that had both sides done, if your points match when they are face to face, you know they're accurate. If they aren't at this point, your box is never going to be square. You can see once they're taped together, it has a slight bow to it, and that is the emphasis of the taper. And once it's all taped together, that is what my box is going to look like. In order to add a base to this, I put a half-inch dado on the bottom. With my miter gauge, I could tilt it to the angle that I need so it still rides against my fence. And then I just cut a piece of ply to fit in there. The glue up having the base in there made the process much easier because these panels are pretty heavy at this point, so the blue tape wanted to tear when you were lifting them. But once I put glue in there, I could kind of tilt up 2 sides. It locked in place on that base, and then you could see I could lift up the other side, and all of my bevels meet perfectly, which is usually the problem on cutting long bevels on the table saw, but my panels were pretty flat and it turned out quite nicely. In order to make the top, I wanted to still use pieces of the door, so there was quite a large section of the bottom that I was able to reuse. I could tear apart the sides because I won't need them. I only want the top to overhang my box a little bit. I don't want a large overhang. So once I had the two pieces, I could clean up the sides because there's years and years worth of paint and gunk in that joint. And then this door already had a groove going down the middle, so I decided I could utilize that to put a spline in there. It was, my wood is 1/2 of an inch and the opening was only about 7/16, so I just ripped about 1/8 of an inch on the table saw to widen it up. I could put the spline in there and glue my two pieces together, and that is going to be my panel for the center of the door. From the two sides, you saw me rip off the door in the beginning of the video. I ripped these down into uniform size, somewhat uniform sections at this point. I was trying to avoid some of the joinery, so when I put the bridal joint on these, it doesn't tear out a bunch of the wood, but I got them all to be the same height, and then I finally cut them down to size on the miter saw. Like I said, I'm using a bridal joint for all four corners. I like the ideal of having visible joinery, and it's just a really strong joint because the raised panel is quite heavy. For that, all I did was I put roughly a 1/2 inch dado stack in my saw. I have a tenoning jig that can work on both of my miter slots. It worked out that if I flipped it backwards and sent it on my opposing miter slot, I could cut that joint in one go. And then I could go through with a stop on the fence and my miter gauge, and then cut the tenons that will fit into that open mortise, and that is essentially my bridal joint. All that stuff I do test cuts before I finish it. You're just seeing the final cuts on the wood. For the raised panel, I'm going to be cutting angles on the side that will roughly match the raised panels that are on the side of the doors. And I had to create these because there wasn't a 5th panel. So I just put some curves of roughly where I want those cuts to stop. And then I found a rough angle. I wanted to leave about 3/8 of an inch material around my center because the router bit I'm going to use to cut the groove in the doors is roughly 3/8 of an inch, so I could use a bevel gauge to transfer that angle to my table saw blade. I can line it up with a tall fence and clamp a sacrificial piece of wood on top. That's really important when doing raised panels, especially since I'm doing both sides of this, because once you get through, there's not a lot of material touching the saw, so that sacrificial board clamped on the top will make it so that what you're cutting can't sink into the saw. And then I could just cut all of my sides, rotate it. You could see how the blade goes up to that curve and gives me a nice sharp edge on the top, and that was how I went about doing the raised panel. Now this is still going to be pretty thick, but it doesn't really matter because you're only ever going to really see one side of it. I did think about adding the pattern to the top, but this is most likely going to turn into something you put stuff on as well, and that pattern is not necessarily delicate, but I could see it being broken through on the top over time, and I just decided to leave it solid wood. I waited to sand everything to the end so there was less to sand off. I could sand the sides, and that is what those two sides look like because as I said, I did it on both sides, so the groove in the middle only was 3/8 of an inch. I clamped together my frame that's going to go around that raised panel, and like I said, it's almost exactly 3/8 inch of a groove, so I could use a rabbiting bit to cut the groove on the inside of this and then glue my frame together. Now I don't make a lot of solid wood paneled doors, but because this is solid wood, it is going to move on you, so I gave myself plenty of breathing room around the perimeter of this door for that panel to expand and contract without being held against the frame so the door doesn't blow itself apart. I could square it up using diagonals, and then the next day I just came in and cleaned up the edges. I made it slightly oversized, knowing that instead of sanding the edges, it's just easier to trim off a 1/16 of an inch. Now, because my raised panels aren't flat like on the original doors, that means if I go to put the molding on, it's going to want to shift up, so it's not going to be sitting on a flat plane, and it's going to give me gaps. So from the cut off pieces of the raised panel, I just cut little shims in order to make the back square, and then when I go to put my trim in there, it easily matches. Now I have extra trim because I didn't bother putting it on the inside of this. No one's ever going to see it, and I knew I wanted to make a door, so I just used the trim off of the door in order to frame out the top. Pretty simple. I just worked my way around the door. I bradded it in place, sinking the brads into the wooden frame, not the panel, because the panel needs to move in that frame. And then that is essentially the top of the door. For this, I'm just going to use European hinges because I always have them in the shop, so I could drill the cups with the cup bit I have. The offset for these, I'm using 1.25 inch overlay hinges. Overlay hinges come in various sizes because the frame of the door is much thicker than 3/4 inch cabinets, which is what I'm used to using. That 1.25 inch overlay will make it so the back side of that door hits the back side of the hamper. If I used 3/4 inch, it would be pushed forward. And then these are soft close, but the door is so heavy the soft close feature doesn't really function, but essentially that's how the door attaches. Now, like I said, this is to hold dirty laundry, and it's not going to be where the laundry is, so I'm actually putting a basket in there, a fabric basket inside, and in order to hold that in place, I just found some really inexpensive hooks to put around the perimeter to hold that basket. The finish I'm putting on this is Osmo oil. Really easy finish to apply. It dries quite quickly. I also personally think it leaves the wood looking like it has no film finish on it. It gives it a really natural look to it, and like I said, super easy to apply. I apply it with some white buffing pads, 2 coats of that. I could reassemble everything, and then that is what this looks like. The entire thing was made out of, the only lumber I used on this, minus the plywood base, was all out of that one door.